Test, test.
As soon as I see Jay take his seats. And I'm back in action. I'm so excited. Yeah, I had to. Oh, no, I wish it was that easy to get a new screen. That's what they did, yeah. It's going to, and I'd already paid off the last one by a few years, so, I mean, it was just, yeah. It's still frustrating. I was so excited to have reduced my bill, my phone bill, and I was like, darn it. So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Friday, December the 9th meeting of the State Board of Education. We're very excited to see so many people in the audience today. I'm glad to officially call to order our meeting. And for those of you following through live stream, I did want to clarify in the items of recognition that we did actually complete the first item of recognition of awardees and finalists from Mr. Owen and Ms. Schneider. So we will commence this morning once again with the spirit of the holidays and spirit of celebration celebration, this annual honor that we have of recognizing the Blue Ribbon Schools here in Arkansas. This is one of my favorite events that we do every year because we know we have exceptional schools, and when we can get the nation to step up and do their part in helping us celebrate that, it just reaffirms what we already know is happening in our school districts and with our families and our leadership. So with that, I would like to recognize Ms. Smith for the recognition of Blue Ribbon Schools.
Good morning to the State Board of Education and to everyone that's here this morning. We're so proud to stand before you again to recognize 3 schools this year. As some of you may already know, the national recognition was November 6, 7, and 8 in DC, where our 3 schools, they were given a flag, a banner that can go in their school or outside of their school. So that's always great for the schools, along with plaques. This year, we had 279 schools, public schools that were recognized, 50 private schools, but we did not have a private school from Arkansas on that list that we could find. This is the 34th year for the National Blue Ribbon School. They have recognized over 8,500 schools through this process. Our schools this morning are being recognized in the exemplary high-performance schools, and this is based on measuring the state assessment or national norm tests. And at this time, we will have representatives to come up and receive the plaques that we have from this morning from our commissioner and our state board president. The first is Desart Elementary School. Dina Rooks, principal, and Superintendent Hill. And we also have Miss Morton, the 2nd grade teacher, if you raise your hand. Cindy Stallings, the 5th, 6th grade literacy teacher. Michelle Calhoun, the dyslexia interventionist. And Kathy Saul, K-6 special education teacher. Did they get everybody? We're so glad to have them with us this morning. Our second school is from Fort Smith, Arkansas, Upper Lane Elementary, and we have 2 principals' names on the plaque because Ms. Penix was the principal during the year that this was being profiled, and Melissa Brady is the principal now, so if they're both come forward. Okay, and with them, they have Dr. Johns, Director of Education, if she would raise her hand, Ms. Diane Willis, teacher, Ms. Kim Pankey, teacher, Ms. Cynthia Lingo, teacher. She's not, okay. Mrs. Natalie Edmondson, teacher. Okay, that's our group from Fort Smith. Our last group is Weiner Elementary, which is located in Harrisburg Area School District, and we have Ms. Hogue and Mr. Sample, Superintendent. That's okay. I had to give you some type of surprise this morning. Anyway, and with them they have Miss Patricia Hess, raise your hand, Anna Ray Hurdle, digital learning facilitator, Tanya Thompson, classroom teacher, Edgar Hernandez, Spanish teacher. With them, that's their group. And I have shared with the schools, and they're prepared one person from each schools to give you highlights on why they were chosen a National Blue Ribbon School. And we can start with Ms. Rooks and then go to Ms. Penix and Ms. Hope.
Good morning. I'm Dina Rooks. I'm the principal at Des Arc Elementary. On behalf of Des Arc School District, I want to thank you for this recognition. The success of our school is because of these ladies right here and many more just like them teaching away at Des Arc Elementary today. The mentality of our school is that we will do whatever it takes for our kids, and the atmosphere that we create reflects this belief. We keep an open door policy with our parents as well as with each other. Parents feel comfortable to come into my office or sit down with any of these ladies and tell personal aspects of their lives that may be affecting their children, because they know we will do whatever it takes in the best interest of their child, and we are able to meet those needs immediately. Yesterday, I received an email from an amazing literacy teacher, a veteran, who reached out to me as well as many others saying, I'm teaching this literacy skill and my kids are just not getting it. I sat back and I thought about that, and it makes me feel so honored that the teachers in my building are comfortable enough to look at their principal and look at others and say, hey, what I'm doing is not working and I need help, because it does take a village to raise a child. Teachers amaze me every day going above and beyond, and they work countless hours to meet all the needs of students to make sure that our kids are successful. I'm grateful for these ladies as well as all my staff, all my parents and supporters, because everyone is willing to do whatever it takes, because our students, they deserve it. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. Okay, as elementary principal, that's like really, sorry. Well, I wanted to say 15 years ago, now 16 years ago, when I inherited a great school and a great opportunity was provided for me, becoming the principal of Upper Lane. And that just continued with me working with the staff, the students, and the parents at Upper. Kind of what she has said, that it took all of us. It's about relationships, and those relationships were strong, and they started with the parent, the community. It bled over into with our teachers, who got to know the kids, who wanted to be a part and connected with their lives. And the kids felt that and knew that, and they knew that they were behind them and wanted to be supported. So it kind of went along with our mission statement that we created, which working together to be those reliable and respectful citizens of the 21st century, and which is what we want them to be. There is no magic bullet. You know, people have asked us, what did you do? Well, I call it good teaching. Good teaching. That's what we did. And we had people that were in it for our kids not to fail, for our kids to be felt supported, and we had the parental support and just total encouragement, and it just kind of built on, and for those 15 years. And I'm very honored and very grateful to pass that on to Miss Brady. She will continue it, and I know that she'll do a good job, because just like she mentioned before, because of those great teachers that you see sitting there, they are the heart, they are the soul, and they made me want to come to work every day. So I appreciate them.
Sorry, before you sit down, I was wondering if you might speak to where you ended up. We're sad to hear that you've left your school, and I hope you're still teaching, maybe, or leading in Arkansas.
You know that you say that you get rewarded with other things. Well, now I am at the Human Resources, so I'm hopefully going to, I think when I look at every position I'm in, I think about how it can ultimately affect students. And so hopefully now I'm on the beginning end, where we continue to find good teachers to be.
Oh, wonderful.
So still affect kids.
Thank you. We'll want to speak with more to you about some policies we're thinking about. Thank you so much.
Good morning. My name is Edgar Hernandez, and I am a teacher at Wiener Elementary. We were honored to be named a 2016 National Blue Ribbon School. We're also extremely proud to have our principal, Pam Hogue, be named one of 8 principals in the nation to receive the United States Department of Education Terrell Bell Award for Outstanding Leadership. Wiener Elementary is a rural K-6 school in the Harrisburg School District. We are a school focused on meeting the needs of the entire child. We are a school that is loved, embraced, and enriched by our community. We are fortunate to be a one-to-one school. Becoming one-to-one has allowed us to expose our children to, quality field trips, a video newsroom, and really other opportunities that allow us to bring the real world into the walls of our building. Each day brings the school together for shared learning through a morning assembly. The Pledge of Allegiance, Americana songs, they're all followed by multimedia presentations on artist, musician, place of the week. We also feature a daily Spanish word of the day and a daily face of creativity. Ms. Pam, our principal, actually facilitates this assembly, allowing the children to see her first as an educator, not just our principal. Each and every student is enrolled in a Spanish class, which I'm fortunate to teach. That's my job there. We believe this allows the children to learn the natural cadence and speed of the language, while also allowing them to have better appreciation of the Hispanic culture. Our 5th and 6th grade class may also take Spanish 1 and Spanish 2 online through Virtual Arkansas for high school credit while they're still in elementary. We believe this gives them better character and appreciation not only of technology, but also commanding those skills which they are sure to use in the future. This past year, students and teachers benefited from on-site training by the Buck Institute of Project-Based Learning. Funds for this worthwhile and honestly much-needed training was a result from a grant from APSRC. This grant made it possible also for a delegation of teachers to travel to the Buck Institute in California. This training has created an atmosphere where project-based learning provides children engaging experiences, making it possible for them to be part of this world, not apart from it. Wiener Elementary constantly seeks new ways to better serve the children of our community. We're always evolving, meeting the needs of these children and the demands of today's world. Our current initiative actually addresses what we see as our most pressing need, which is a preschool program allowing our low socioeconomic students to be ready for school. We thank the State Board of Education for everything you do for the children of our state, and we truly believe in the direction where education is headed. To our fellow Blue Ribbon winning schools, we thank you, and we congratulate you and wish you the best in future endeavors. We truly believe that Wiener Elementary is, as our motto states, a great place to be a kid. Thank you.
We have one more recognition, and that is for our 2016 Terrell H. Bell awardee. She is one of 8 that was awarded this leadership, outstanding school leadership, because of the Blue Ribbon School. And we want to say congratulations and thank you to Miss Pamela Hogue, Principal, Wiener Elementary School. So if you all will come back down again, please. She was not expecting this, so.
You didn't tell me I was going to do this.
You and Mr. Sample, I can't tell you everything. It wouldn't be a surprise. Yes, and we're so proud to have this recognition in our state. Again, State Board of Education, and to our Commissioner Key, thank you for allowing us to share with you again.
Thank you so much, Ms. Smith. And as we shared with everyone here today, it's actually us that need to thank you all for this opportunity to really celebrate the successes and all the great work that's going on. We wish we could take what you're doing and put it in a bottle and sell it or give it out for free. We find ourselves more time than not really focusing on some of the deepest challenges in the state. And so it's really wonderful to hear the reaffirmation of the value and importance of leadership that I think you all touched on, that it's a team effort. I can't be more excited that you all came as teams, not as individuals, but the teams that made it possible, the relationships that matter so deeply, and the innovation, the desire to keep going to the next level. Even y'all's application for this, I think, really lends itself to that. And I will say, having Wieners come to us before, and under much different circumstances, a few years back when I was still on this board, and to be able to celebrate rural education in Arkansas, right? And that success really comes in all forms and sizes and everywhere across the state is truly something that needs to be celebrated. And so I thank you all for that. And with that, I didn't know if any of my colleagues wanted to ask any questions in regards to anything that was shared here. Again, we tend to probe more when we're in challenge circumstances, and I want to encourage my colleagues to see if anyone had questions to help us probe further on some of these best practices and the excellent work being done. And I'll take that as you all just blew us away, that there was nothing left to ask. So thank you all with that, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your time here in Little Rock and get to do hopefully something fun and rewarding. I know you all had to leave your communities early this morning and in quite cold circumstances statewide. So hopefully there's some warm things in your future for this afternoon. Thank you again, and best of luck as you travel back to your communities and what you all have ahead for 2017. Thank you. Now moving on to our Priority School first quarter progress reports. Dr. Wild, you're recognized.
Good morning. Richard Wild, School Improvement Program Manager. For the most part, we won't necessarily be going through the reports. As you can see, we've sent you quite a bit of information, and just wanted to let you know that we are going through all of the first quarter reports, and we're coming up on the second quarter reports. Will be due first part of January. That part said, I would like to take just a moment and talk about the format itself and the rationale for the format. As you take a look, I believe everyone has a hard copy of the progress report. First thing I want to say is that this is a progress report. It is not a plan. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of confusion as we look around the state. At one time, we used to talk in terms of a 45-day plan related to IMOs, our intermediate interim measurable objectives. And so that language, for whatever reason, seems to be hanging on. And what we're trying to do is make sure that everybody understands this is a school reporting their progress, and their progress is on the leading indicators. And what we think of as leading indicators are things like attendance, are things like grades, are things like how the students are doing on unit assessments, how a leading indicator is teacher attendance. So as we're looking at this, the overall intent of the document itself is to say, if your plan is working, and the state is not trying to say or to do a prescriptive plan for a school. We're not trying to say, here is your plan. We're trying to say, come up with a plan that will address your students' needs, and you should see if the plan is working as you go through the year. You should see changes in those leading indicators. And that's the thought behind the progress report. The pieces that, if you look on page one of the things that we have done is we've asked the schools to tell us their goals for the year. And we asked them to look at their Aspire data and give us their goals. As you read through many of the progress reports from the schools, it goes back to, there has been a reversion back to old thinking. They have put in things like, we're going to increase by 3% the number of students proficient on the Aspire at the end of the year. For many of those schools, actually attaining that would be no difference in their scores. Okay? And it reflects the thinking about goal setting, and in particular, goal setting as related to academic distress and priority schools. So I just want to call that to your attention. We're working on that. We're trying to build capacity on how to think about goal setting. Goal setting is also a communication device. It is a way to communicate to the staff, here's what we are trying to accomplish, and here's our logic model of how we're going to accomplish that. As we move towards ESSA, ESSA itself speaks highly to the idea of logic models being created to go along with the interventions that a school is employing. So we're trying to also build capacity as we go towards ESSA. Then page 2 is the principal's narrative. And what we're asking the principals to do is just tell us what they think has been improved related to student outcomes and or teacher skill sets. So as you read through these, a lot of them, people tended to birdwalk into other areas. But what we're going to try to do is keep them focused on what's really improving, either teacher skill sets or with student outcomes. On page 3, we're asking as a leadership team that the leadership teams meet approximately every 2 weeks and to look at naturally occurring data within the school. So therefore, what meaningful decisions have been made by the school improvement leadership team? And in the IndaStar is where we ask them, in the platform, is where we ask them to put their agendas and their minutes. And one of the things that we have noted is people talk a lot, but the leadership teams are not necessarily making meaningful decisions. So we're also using this as a diagnostic tool to tell us what do people think are meaningful decisions so that we can delve deeper into the thinking process within the building and provide better assistance. The next piece, and it seems like a large percentage of the schools missed the intent of this next question, which was what modifications to the school improvement efforts will be made for the next quarter based off of the data you're reporting. So we would think that we would see conversation about, because our grades were such and such, we're going to do this instead. Or because teacher attendance was, teacher absenteeism was high, we're going to do this. For the most part, we did not see a lot of the connection between what they're going to work on the next quarter back to their own data points. So we're going to work on that. When you look at page 4, part of the reason we're asking for the number of students enrolled and students with disabilities is so as we look at their data, we can tell whether or not students with disabilities are included in the regular classroom for unit assessments, or are they not included? Or we can also identify, are students with disabilities having a higher percentage of failing grades or D grades? So part of the rationale for collecting this, but it's also there so that the school can tell the story of, do they have a large percentage of students with disabilities that they're dealing with? Do they have a large percentage of non-English speaking students? So what's the challenges that they face? And then we ask for the number of discipline referrals. I think you've probably remember hearing from the discipline study that not all the referrals are reported. Okay, we only ask for certain referrals to be reported. If you were just we had a district here yesterday, and Mr. Clayton from Mills High School talked about a reduction of 200 referrals in the first quarter. But if you look at the report doesn't reflect that, because what they're reporting in this document are simply those that are mandated to be reported. What we know is there are hundreds and hundreds of referrals taking place that are consuming great amount of time and having children out of the classroom a great amount of time that is not getting captured in our report. So therefore, they may show no progress, but they may have great progress. Do you follow me on that? That the data isn't accurate in that area. The number of students with 5 or more referrals, and we're looking for that because the more referrals a student gets, then the more likely they are to be being pushed out or disinvited to participate. Going on to page 5, that's the data that we're trying to collect. And one of the things that came up last year was that there were a number of school activities where teachers miss, and then there's a number of days for illness or personal reasons that teachers are out. So we've separated those two categories. Then hopefully that information is valuable to the state board as well as to the district and the school. We look at students' average daily attendance and the number of days students are out. And when I say we, what we're hoping for is that about every 2 weeks, these would be the data points that the school improvement team would be saying. How are we doing in terms of grades? How are we doing in terms of student attendance? How are we doing in terms of students learning what we just taught? And so this should be not an end of the quarter, an event. This should be the reporting of what we're doing approximately every 2 weeks and being a cumulative report of that. One of our biggest challenges has been to get across the concept of unit post-assessments. And we still continue to be all over the board on that. What we're asking is that about every 3 weeks that a school take a measure of what was just taught. Not even necessarily, we're not talking necessarily about standards. We're just saying whatever was taught in the last 3 weeks, take a measure of it, and then determine as teachers, did the students learn what we just taught them? We are asking for that to be a graded assignment so that the students have buy-in. Okay, it's not another assessment, it is a measure. And it's not a test, it is a measure. And we're having a hard time getting that concept across also. Okay, with the idea that if you do 3 1/4, you'd have 3 points and could be able to react if the students weren't learning what you've just taught them. The other thing we do is then ask schools, okay, now compare the percentage of D and Fs on those units to the percentage of D and F grades on the report card, or they're going to be issued by the teachers. And is there commonality? Okay, could you have predicted as you went through the quarter that the students were going to get a D or an F? And if so, what did you do about it? Okay, how did you try to be preventative rather than reactive? One of the things we also asked for is how many students failed the year before in math and ELA? Well, I think everybody is aware that if a student failed the year before, there is approximately an 80% probability that they will fail again during the current year. Okay, that is especially true in mathematics. So as we look at this, what we're saying is you should be doing something different if at the beginning of the year you know you have a large percentage of kids coming in. What are you doing differently for those kids that failed? Summer school is not the same. So going and getting the credit at summer school or getting the grade at summer school so you can move ahead isn't necessarily saying you're going to have all the skills you need for that next grade level. So we see a lot of students going to summer school, the grade's improving, but then the students repeat failure during the school year. We're trying to break that cycle. One of the things we asked for this year that we have not asked for in the past is for the Aspire interims to be used. And we're asking for the Aspire interims. All of the priority schools were using an interim measure last year. The reason we're asking them to move towards Aspire is because that is a predictor test of the test they're going to administer at the end of the year. We make exceptions, and we will continue to make exceptions if a school has a good rationale for using other types of interim. The page 10 really is just telling you how many students the school perceives entered 3 or more grade levels behind. Okay. We would think, and when we do the springtime one at the end of the year, is the number higher or lower? Okay, because if you are effective in your plan, theoretically, you would see a lowering of that percentage of students that are 3 years behind. The next part is you have a copy of the surveys that we are asking the school to administer to staff and to students each quarter, and then to do an analysis of each of those items. We're not asking them to report out their analysis on each question. We want them to do that. But what we're asking them to do is to mathematically tell us a score of 1 to 4 of how the teachers and students responded. Okay? And what that implies is if you have 3 or above, that for the most part, there is a feeling of support. If you have less than 3, it means that they're, whether it's the students or the staff, are reporting lack of support. And that's where it goes back to then analyze those specific questions where either staff or students rated it less than 3. So what we would be saying to you is if you're reading these and you see less than 3, then that's a measure of culture.
Yeah.
And so we're focusing in on the culture side of the school. The other piece we're asking the schools to take a look at, is there a difference between how the teachers perceive things and how the students perceive things? We have a couple of schools where the teacher perception is 3.5 or above, and the students are 2.5. Okay? So that tells you the adults are feeling really good about it. The kids aren't necessarily feeling really good about the culture of the school. And then the last thing is, if you have other pieces of information that you think really reflect the progress you're making, please put that in and report that out to the State Board. Any questions about our format or our thinking?
Thank you. I saw Dr. Barth first.
So thank you very much. This is super clear. Back on the discipline piece, I totally understand why the data is not an accurate portrayal of what might be going on. What are you, moving forward, what do you envision might be changes that could be made in the reporting to better get at that?
Well, there's a couple of things taking place. One is Dr. Saunders and Technology Group are expanding the number of fields for schools that want to use them related to the PBIS process. Okay, so we're actually getting a better system for them to be able to do that. But there is for whatever reason, a prevalent thinking that we don't want to show a lot of referrals because that would make us look bad. Okay? And we've got to get out of that think. Now, the other piece we're saying is that if you want to use just those fields that are available to you in ABSCAN for federal reporting, that's okay too. But then create a system where you're doing a hand count. Okay? Because every principal or every assistant principal who deals with it knows how many referrals they've dealt with by the end of the day. So all you're looking for is, at this point, how many did I process today? And if you keep that count, then every 2 weeks you can take a look at how many referrals you had. And if you want to, as a leadership team, you can start identifying, did it occur in the cafeteria? Did they occur in the morning? You can actually do an analysis. And that's what Mr. Clayton was talking about yesterday. Right. They're beginning to do that and to do their own analysis. Now, he didn't report it, but they're doing the right process.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I saw Miss Abels first, and then you, Miss, yes.
First, I just wanted to say that a part of growing and improving is reflection. And I feel like the way this is set up, it is a true reflection process. And I almost wish that every school would do this. As a teacher, I would love to be able to sit down and see where my school is in all of these areas. And the student surveys, I love that. I think every school should give student and teacher surveys. And I'm curious if any future data is going to be done based on the survey results and the performance results. Because I always think when your teachers are happy and they love their jobs, scores are going to come up. And I'm just curious if y'all are going to do any future looking into that area. But I think this is great. And I'm very impressed with the way y'all have set this up, and I truly wish more schools would do this.
Thank you, Ms. Abels.
And we'll take that under advisement.
Thank you, and thank you, Dr. Wild. Ms. Zook.
Yes, you may want to refresh our memory as far as what makes you a priority school versus what makes you an academic distress school, just so those that aren't on academic distress and they see schools here that we don't review, just update us.
For the most part, under the federal application and under the federal rules, we were to identify schools that were the lowest performing schools based off of the percent of students that scored proficient on the end of the year exam. It was one measure, but we had to identify those schools up to 5% of the total number of schools. And so this reflects the schools that had the lowest 3-year cumulative percent of proficient students in the school over a 3-year period of time.
And then to become in academic distress, it would be if half of their, well, roughly half of their students didn't perform. You may be a priority school, but your kids are still performing above that mark.
Above the 50%
But you're
mark.
still in the lowest 5% in your state. So one's sort of a federal measure, one's a state measure, and the twain, we have combined them. Thank you, Dr. Wild.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Chambers.
Dr. Wild, in business, there's an equivalent to this kind of reporting and surveys, engagement surveys. And sometimes the entities that are participating in them feel like it's kind of compliance reporting. And so oftentimes the challenge is getting a group to see that it's not compliance, that it actually helps prompt questions and things to change process for the good. But particularly on the engagement side of the surveys, occasionally you can get a false positive or negative, but the false positives are always interesting because you can get a false sense of confidence that things are good because the organization, the participants in the survey don't want to deal with, they don't think anybody really cares or is really going to do anything about it, or they just don't want to have to talk to anybody about it, so they give all high scores. So getting at something meaningful in the data, I think, is so important. Have we been doing this? One question is, have we been doing this for quite a while? So we have enough history with how to get to a point that it is meaningful data. And number two, as it relates to surveys, do we tend to look at the survey results in terms of gap and trend, trending up, trending down? And if there's a huge disparity between, say, how an educator feels, the client surveys scores from them, if they're markedly different, high or low from the students, that gap is what gets our attention. How do we react to or respond to the data?
For the most part, we're asking the schools to analyze each individual question to see if there is a trend within the school related to a specific question. Where, for the most part, this is our first year of venturing into survey data on a regular basis. The schools, many schools across the state do an annual survey of some sort, school health sort of survey. we're asking for this on a quarterly basis, looking for, as we go through the school year, a trend. So that this survey data really is a baseline. And we will be analyzing this more in depth as we go through the school year, because we're also sensitive to that issue of teachers and students reporting one direction but actually feeling another. And for the schools that are in academic distress, each year we actually go on site and have focus groups of students and teachers. So we will be able to validate that. And from those focus groups is why we've added the survey data. Now, there's nothing particularly statistically reliable and valid about the instruments we've picked, okay? So this is the beginning into that area. So we're very sensitive not to overreact to it, but we're asking principals and their leadership teams, be thoughtful and say, are you getting a true picture of your school?
Thank you. Any additional questions? Or yes, Ms. Newton.
I just want to congratulate y'all. This is great work. Every time I see y'all put out a report, it just seems to get better and clearer every time. So the surveys will go every quarter then. So I think that might eliminate some of the, false positives or false negatives if you keep doing it. Is it going to be anonymous? Okay.
They are all anonymous.
The other comment I have is kind of along with what Ms. Abels had said. There are a lot of schools out there that want to improve and want to get better that may not be a focus or a priority or academic distress, but they don't have that skill set or this tool to reflect that it takes. And so I would really like the department somehow or another to put out these tools as a suggestion. If you want to improve your school, if you want to get better, consider this process, because it would help you reflect on what's going on in your school and help you find your strengths and help you find your places that maybe you could improve. So.
And also to be aware that we do provide general assistance to all schools. So if we have a school call in who is looking for this, we make these tools available. I understand what you're saying.
But sometimes they may not want to call in because they may not want to call attention to themselves.
Yeah.
But this would be something that if you could put it out, that they might take advantage of.
No, and I very much appreciate your comments, Ms. Newton, because I think sometimes folks walk away from our meetings thinking we're just trying to move forward our worst performing schools, our most challenged schools, and yet what we're trying to do is help all schools go to the next level. And so to have this as a marker of evaluation for all schools, wherever you are, right, in that spectrum, as a way of just trying to make sure that they really are pushing themselves to the next step.
I heard a comment that really opened my eyes a couple of weeks ago. They were talking about schools in the bottom whatever percent getting help. Well, I'm just going to throw out a number of schools in the bottom 10% getting help. Well, what if you were 11%, 12%,
Yeah, exactly, yeah,
and what help are you going to get? This is a tool that everyone could use to get help if they knew it was there and could take advantage of it.
And Ms. Noon, that's actually why we revisited the academic distress rule 6 years ago, 5 years ago now to begin with, because it was the feeling that there was all these folks along those border lines and then even more, right, that we were missing. And so an obligation, so it emphasizes this is how we can show our obligation to all students.
Everyone, no matter how good you are, even if you're one of the blue ribbon schools, we can all improve. We can all get better. And sometimes we just need that tool
Exactly.
to help ourselves get better.
Thank you. And we know, Dr. Wild, how much you have on your plate, so we appreciate you absorbing this. But I think Ms. Zook already also had a statement.
I think, sort of reflecting back on our conversation yesterday with Forward, I was under the impression when we went into the memorandum of understanding with them that they would, Dr. Wild and his group are really focused time and energy on the academic distress schools and also providing assistance to the priority schools like this instrument. And I think I was under the impression that the Forward group would come in and give the extra oomph to the ones that are priority but not academic distress yet, trying to prevent, in some way, and then sort of grow up from there. So I think you all probably sensed my frustration, and perhaps our chairman's yesterday, that as you see, none of these schools here except Lee County that are picked as the initial communities are on this list. So, and maybe, I guess I was thinking they were also going to help the community, the business people, the parents, the civic organizations, help them become a forward community. I mean, I understand that Independence County, they've got lots of great things going on, as do Springdale and Pea Ridge and the others that were mentioned yesterday. And so they could be role models, or could be, or like we do these surveys there, and this is what their survey results look like. In the priority schools, this is what theirs, and like that. And so I guess you've sensed my frustration yesterday that it doesn't appear after 2.5 years that we have gotten any further along other than what we already had, which was ADE's help, the superintendents, the people who have got things going on in their districts, that they're sort of out there inventing the wheel. But the forward help hadn't been there. The group that we sort of, a lot of the districts in my congressional district thought, okay, great, help's on the way. And anyway, so.
No, thank you, Ms. Zook. And I hope what you hear for that, Dr. Wild, is our hopes and aspirations that we expressed yesterday to forward about maybe getting some supplemental resources to you and your team and to some of these schools in a way. And so just know it's because we believe so strongly in what you do. And to that note, I hope your ears were burning yesterday. You had left by, I think, the time we were all expressing your praises with the reporting and your authenticity. I have to admit, it's been great hearing your voice and analysis in a very sincere and truthful way. And we hope you will not stop that, because it really helps us in terms of focusing even whether it's our inquiries or thinking and things. So we rely a lot on you in that sense. And to that end, I hope, and this is actually something I'll offer to the commissioner. It has been such a sincere pleasure to see Arkansas lauded nationally for what we do with computer science and coding. But I will say that I would love to see us lauded for what we're doing on this with academic distress as well. Because when I convene with NASB and they have conversations around turnaround schools, 9 times out of 10, the focus is on urban districts and it's on an individual school. I have yet to hear about a state take on a coordinated state strategy the way that you and your team have done and create these forms and these processes and really do this innovative thinking. And I think we have a chance here to really be able, and it's not just celebrating you and your team, Dr. Wild, but this is what we talk about a lot of times in terms of our relationship with the communities, right? When we can start celebrating the successes of establishing a process, seeing progress, I think these are the kind of things that can help lift that morale, right? And demonstrate that we're not just here as enforcers, but we're also here to celebrate successes. And I'd love to see if there's some opportunities, and if we can help facilitate that, especially through NASB, to recognize this innovation that you're doing. I don't want to add more to your plate, but I would hope you would allow us to share your story, because I really think it's a tremendous one.
And before the commissioner speaks, also want to highlight that we do have a good team, but at the same time, we aren't just the only ones working on this. As we take a look at educator effectiveness, we have begun to collaborate with them, and we're working hand in hand and beginning to crosswalk our work with their work. We're doing the same thing with the assessment unit. We're doing, beginning to do a lot of work with the special education department. And so it's not just our think and our processes, it is that this past year, we have truly tried to embrace a cross-departmental thinking process.
No, and it's Arkansas' story. You're exactly right. It's the departments, it's our districts, but I think there's something to be said about Arkansas taking on head on this challenge of our schools that are facing the most challenges, and it's one that I haven't heard as of yet. I know I think it's partly because we've been learning as we're going, and this has been a moving target. But I think there's we're at a place where we have something to share and to celebrate, not just for our state but for the nation. It's just really exciting. What you're doing. Sorry, Commissioner.
No, and Dr. Wild, you mentioned some of the things that I was going to point out, so thank you for doing that. It's about how do we implement, how do we pull in the professionals from curriculum instruction, from standards, from teacher effectiveness, from special ed, all of the groups pulling in together so that our school improvement folks that are out there have the support they need, and it is a multi-pronged and multiple eyes looking at it. So you ask, how can we get the recognition of that? When folks ask you, what's the plan? We've been hearing it. I mean, we've been hearing it. You heard it from the updates from the folks at Little Rock. You heard it yesterday and reflected in the mills and some of the schools that were here yesterday. What you're hearing is that it's not about a state plan. It's about this team of professionals coming in and helping facilitate the development of a building plan. All of these reports that are linked here, that's what it's about. So we need your help when you're out there and people ask you, please point to this as being the way we are combating the challenges in helping our districts develop the resources to meet the needs of these students. Because you're right. We typically see and hear more of a negative because these folks are out there doing the work. They're on the front lines of it. We try to promote and encourage, and when Little Rock comes in and talks about their Achieve team, that is tailored to Little Rock. You don't hear anyone else talking about Achieve team. That is a process they have implemented as their plan to address some of the issues, but they're using the tools that Dr. Wild and the School Improvement Unit have presented to them and blending it in to meet the needs. So we're out there doing it. We need your help. We need your help because we know that folks call you and lean on you to say, well, what's going on in Dollarway? What's going on at Pulaski County? What's going on in Little Rock? It's all recorded. So it's easy for us to put out those links, and we do. Our communications team pushes this stuff out. We just need help directing folks to where these resources are, where this information is, and if they want to know what's happening, we can point them to show them where it's happening. And I just express my appreciation to the leadership of Dr. Wild, Mr. Harvey, Ms. Barnes, and all these school improvement folks.
Mr. Sir, let's let them stand up.
I want them to stand up and they worked hard. We've worked hard to reinforce because their numbers weren't this large not that long ago. And I just really want to express my appreciation to them for the work that they're doing. And going into 2017, I really think you're going to see some fantastic results in these schools in which they're working.
Thank you. And if I could respectfully suggest to our communications team maybe an Innovate video around something like this, or I just don't know if, but they do such a great job. But I think if there's a way where we could really kind of help spread the word of what all of y'all are doing. I think we've got into a moment in this. I think we need to celebrate, and I think part of our ability of future success with this and our relationship with the districts is being able to start celebrating, at least with a process, right? It begins with a process, and I think that's a tremendous hurdle, again, that I've not seen any state tackle the way that Arkansas has, and it makes me very proud for Arkansas. So with that, Ms. Zook, did you have some comments? And then otherwise, I know Ms. Bryant did want to, before your team dispels, Ms. Bryant did, I think, have some questions about the Dollarway progress report and had signed up for public comment.
No, I just pulled it down because I wanted the team to stand.
Okay.
And, you know, as far as the film, I think that, I mean, the little video, I think that would be a good idea. And helping the schools, in special education, we talked about approximating success. Okay, so you finally learn how to add 1 and 1, but maybe tomorrow you can do it a little faster. So, you know, helping the individual child, the individual school measure, quit worrying about the ultimate goal, but how much more can you do now than you could 2 weeks ago, and how much more can you do even 2 days ago? And that's what these folks are doing, and trying to help them realize that academic distress may be a priority, a bad word, but I'm making progress within that. I'm getting help within that, even if it's a matter of I'm changing my attitude about when the school improvement specialist comes into my building. So the whole picture in that way.
Thank you so much, Ms. Zook. I think I saw Ms. Bryant before. Ms. Bryant, or you are recognized.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And I was expecting Dollarway to be here today. I didn't know it was going to be like this, but I'm glad it is. This is wonderful. First of all, I want to thank you again for allowing me to come up and speak. And before I say what I wanted to say, the first thing I want to say is that I really, really appreciate Dr. Weil and his team, because last year when they came into Dollarway and the state, this is actually, I don't know if you guys realize it, but tomorrow will be the 1-year anniversary of Dollarway school takeover. You guys took over Dollarway on 10 December 2015, okay? And I supported it then, and I support it now. I think it was the right thing to do. The paperwork or the new plan that they have, school progress plan, I think it's an excellent plan, and I've seen it in the works. And I want to tell you that I really appreciate all the hard work that you're doing. Okay? So, now, I wouldn't be here talking to you today if I could speak with the leadership in Dollarway. Okay? As I said, I agree with the takeover. Okay? Because we had issues, climate issue, cultural issues, fiscal issues, academic issues. Okay? Now, part of the reason why I think we're having such a hard time making the progress in Dollarway that we need to make is because the parents and the students don't feel valued. Their opinions, their ideas, their concerns. I'm here seeking help, your help, with moving Dollarway forward. As I said, today is going to be our 1st year anniversary of the takeover. There were barriers then to student and parent engagement. Those barriers, many of them, remain. Are Dollarway children any better off than 1 year ago? I know some of you have had a chance to look at the data. I've looked at the data. If you look at the data fiscally, which wasn't on there, but I know we're doing better that way. But academically, we're still in the same place that we were before. What do I think needs to be done in Dollarway? You changed the head of Dollarway, but the body is seriously infected. The culture and the climate is entrenched. It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of work. A lot of people think that standardized tests, they don't like standardized tests, and they think it's a bad thing, and I did too. But I'm glad we have standardized tests, because if we didn't have standardized tests, we would not know that our children were not learning in Dalloway. In order for Dalloway to show the improvement that you would like for Dalloway to see, what's going to happen in Dalloway is collaboration. There's going to have to be collaboration, teamwork. The leadership is going to have to work with the staff. It's going to have to work with the students. It's going to have to work with the parents. There has to be open communication. If it's ugly, tell us it's ugly. Don't try to hide it in the numbers. Be upfront. If we need training, provide us that training that we need. We're willing to do the training and we're willing to do the work. But will you invite us to the table and let us help you? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bryant. And please know, we wish every parent was as committed as you are and as thoughtful, and it's impossible not to feel the partnership that you personally bring to the table with the district. So I do hope that Dr. Wild, the appropriate members of your team might be able to connect with Ms. Bryant while here. And I know I saw the ADE staff as well yesterday speaking with her, and I just wanted to express my gratitude for her and her time.
Yes, and one of the things we can tell you is that coming up on this 1-year mark, the commissioner had a group of us in the district evaluating this week, and that is truly a kudo to the commissioner that we're also evaluating our own work, not just the work of others. So
Thank you for that. So with that, I will entertain a motion for adjournment. Okay, motion made by Dr. Barr, seconded by Ms. Chambers. All in favor? Okay. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now, before people dispel quick